meeting does get recorded as well too. That helps Sam as well in case, because as you can see, she has an assistant. And so, but also in case somebody wants to see what we talk about, the board meetings are public. And so I record these and upload them to our YouTube page. So it's there as well too.
We ready to go?
Yep. Fire away.
Okay. So, so everybody want to get the approval of the agenda? Does the agenda look good with everybody? Thumbs up. Okay. And then, do we have past meeting minutes?
Sam, do you want to talk to that one?
I just sent them this afternoon.
Mhm. Yeah, they were sent this afternoon. I'll put them up here.
I was gonna say I can share my screen.
Yeah, you're
possibly.
typing. I'll get you. I'll get you. It just made me laugh when I saw them. All right, let me download here, pull it up. And I am going to share the screen with you all so you can see it. Go ahead and look over them here for a minute, then I'll move on to the next page.
We can't read them.
They're blurry.
They're blurry.
Too little,
Okay, well then let me try this.
way too little.
All right, well that one didn't work. Silly technology. Just
See what
do as
happens
I-
if you enable the editing.
Yeah, that's why I just switched over to that to see if that changed it. Let me make it bigger here. Boop, boop, boop. Can you read it clearly there?
Nope.
It's,
I mean, it's
No.
better, but
yeah,
Oh,
that's
that-
better.
worked.
There it popped into focus.
How's that working for people?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and take a look-see. I'll give you another minute, then I'll go on to the next page. Just letting you all know, Phil Dell has joined the meeting. Phil, we are reviewing the minutes from our previous meeting. And then I'll take this off the screen so you can look at all of our wonderful faces.
All right, very good.
Okay, does anybody need more time?
Looks good.
Also remember that this is available in your email as well too.
Okay, so Lee, we go down through the report, the commission steward.
You have to
The
see if
report.
people are content with if they are okay going forward, if they have any questions about the minutes, things like that.
Yeah, anybody have any questions about the minutes? Okay. So Diana, do you have a report from the steward commission?
No, there's been nothing going on since the initial report from October. We have pretty well closed out this year with all of our work. Of course, I believe that Joe Binkley is under the weather now, whether he's got COVID or something else, he's got COVID. He hasn't been able to do anything and hasn't suggested anything. But so everything, if there's anything else, it'll start next year. But I
So
think we've pretty well covered it.
did I hear somebody say in the background that he has COVID?
Yes.
Well, we're not sure. As far as I understand, it's not, the tests haven't come back one way or another. I don't know
Okay.
yet.
Okay. Is that it, Diana?
That's it.
Okay, so Neva is not here and Dawn is not here. So Randy, do you have a deacon's report you want to share?
I mean, the deacons haven't been very active other than, they're making their calls and people are talking to each other. Sandy and Sue, I know, send out cards each month to all of our people on our prayer list. We have been meeting via Zoom for our prayer meeting every month. Basically, Sandy, I, Betsy, Sue, and Bonnie. Everybody else is welcome to join, but those are the people that we have been Zooming with. I think it's the third Tuesday every month. So that's all we've really done.
Okay. Well, thanks, Randy.
No problem.
So Brenda, do you want to give us or go through the treasurer's report with us?
Oh, sure.
Don't be too enthusiastic.
I was just getting out of my comfy chair to stand up
Oh,
because I feel
Sorry
like
to ruin everything for you.
I'm far away, buddy. The congregation giving is still behind, but all of your bills are paid. We had no special offerings in October and none in November. And we're still waiting on the payment for the National Youth Conference. I can see where when I look at the printout that we're stayed pretty stable within the last month in our giving. And I'm missing a week, one of the deposit slips from last month. So, and I have not called Doug yet about that. So I just realized it last night when I was going over things. So right now, I think based on what we've done to take money from the funds from the benefit trust and how we're doing right now, I think we're doing all right. So I am hopeful.
Mhm.
okay. So everybody,
So and December is always one of our better months anyways. So does anybody have any questions?
anybody have any questions?
I see head shakes. I see no great.
No, you do a great job, Brenda.
Thank you.
I've mentioned this before, the treasurer's position would not be one that I would be able to do. So it takes special people to do that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Lee, you have a report?
Yeah, so the report I did email to everybody, but I realized it was late. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you it on the screen because I was able to get it on the screen here. And then I'm going to take some questions for that. And then I'm going to transfer or transition to what I was read the devotion over today and also take some time here for Phil to be able to speak a little bit as well. So let me go ahead and show you the pastor's report. Are you able to see that okay? I'm assuming from silence that means yes.
blurry
you-
again for me.
Yeah, can you focus it a little bit?
There you go.
Did
Yeah,
it kick in now?
Yep, it did.
It might be a bandwidth issue at play then, so.
It's pretty little.
Well, I will skim through it real quick for you. Activities since the last meeting, a lot of it's been tech related, as it was for most of this year. Doing things via Zoom, Bible studies, check-ins, meetings, phone calls. Today, I did I didn't list the phone calls. There's plenty of phone calls. Trust me, there's been plenty of phone calls. BRC has now set up the ability to use webcams and things of that nature to be able to do visits with people. And they are so I did one today with Norma Hellstern, and Skyped with her for about 30 minutes, which she really appreciated. The thing that I've heard again and again, continual support for, is people have really appreciated the daily devotionals that are coming out. It
Yes.
allows them to feel connected. They've said in times when otherwise they would feel fairly disconnected. So it has gone well, I think, in that regard as well too. So as I look forward to what's coming up, planning Christmas Eve service is a big one. We are doing that online, although it's going to be done via Zoom, so it'll be live at 7. People will be invited to join if they so desire, but I'm working on getting it put together now so that hopefully it'll go with some ease. 2020 had been a year I'd hoped to really spend time doing grant work, but that had to take a back seat because of, well, everything took a back seat this year. Everything transitioned. So in the midst of that, though, there's been a lot of blessing that I have seen in this experience, because it has helped me focus, I think, some of the questions and things that we're looking and working towards in the coming years ahead. Also, of course, doing sermon planning for 2021. I try to be about a quarter ahead. So I'm looking to get the first 3 months of next year planned here soon. Eventually, I would like to take some Sabbath time. I had hoped to be able to take a break over Thanksgiving, but that ended up not being the case. So once we find a rhythm that is workable for our community as well, Ashley and I are looking to take some Sabbath time with ourselves and with the boys. So nothing bad. I just wanted to give people a heads up so they knew that. Had a couple funerals to do. Shirley Conklin passed away, and then somebody connected to Shirley Conklin, Shirley's daughter, Mickey. Mickey's mother-in-law passed away, I think the day after Shirley's funeral. So I did that funeral for them too. So do you have any questions from anything I've said so far? Okay, I'll make that go away. And that has been emailed to you as well, too. You should be able to view it anytime you need. So I wanted to transition. Of course, the thing I spoke of at first there had to do with hospitality. And the reason the idea of hospitality came to mind for me as a particular area of conversation has to do with this. Some might recognize it, some might not. This is the part of the graph from the survey results from what we did last year. And in particular, as I was reading through it, there was many things that jumped to my mind that made me go, ooh, that's interesting. Ooh, that's interesting. This one I thought was a good place to start a conversation, because as the questions reflect, what we see is question 33, all right, which is this, I highlighted some here for you to see. It's this green one right here. Our community stated that if a person does not behave the way the congregation expects them to, they would be unwelcome in church. But then, literally, the next thing that's examined is it says everyone is welcome in our congregation. In fact, that's a pretty high, that's pretty high up. Whenever Jonathan provided these results to us, he said something to consider is how does the congregation understand welcome? And that I found to be a fantastic question. How do we understand welcome? Because the idea of hospitality, as I said in the prayer, is so often hospitality is relegated to an industry, hotel industry, restaurant industry, paralleling the service industry, and all those are appropriate. Those are very real places. They exist. But the idea of biblical hospitality is something very, very different. And exploring it as a place of welcome, as we look at ourselves, as if we believe ourselves to be welcoming, then that carries with a connotation that we carry with us some hospitality. And while generally speaking, I think that we could easily say, yes, we have hospitality, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, which says there's still a distinct side of us that says that there is a group of people, or there are individuals whom we would say are not welcome. They would be unwelcome in our church. So, what I wanted to do for our time together here in a moment is kind of pick your brains a little bit and flesh out what we think the word welcome actually means. But before we do that, I wanted to pause and give Phil a moment, to say what not only his role is, but any observations he has going forward with this.
Okay, Lee, thank you for setting me up here. um, I am Philip Dell. I'm your coach for with this survey that's been taken by your church. And a couple of things in general. One is, as a coach, I'm an outsider, of course, to your congregation. And I'm getting a kind of a snapshot picture of the Salem congregation. And so I realize this is your survey. It's I didn't take it, but all of you, or many of you, how many ever took it, and it's yours to work with. And I'm happy to work with you on it. And going over the entire survey, I saw some bright spots, certainly many bright spots, and of course I can see that Lee has brought up a rather important or major concern that the survey revealed. So I hope that you can work through this and make some progress and get into it and see how you deal with it, and be understanding of perhaps a more biblical model of hospitality, and go and grow with it. So, but I do look forward to being your coach through this process, and I hope that would like to be able someday to meet all of you in person.
No,
And
we're going to keep you at a distance, Phil. You're going to
Well-
have to stay in your room and time out. We're all going to gather and talk about you.
well, if that's the case, then I will consider other options. But that's really about all I had to say as far as this meeting goes.
Mhm. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. So let's take a few moments here, and this may require you to unmute yourselves, as scary as that might be. I want to take a moment and explore, to start with, two words, and they're opposites. The first one is, what does the word welcome mean to you? And the second one I want you to explain, or to share, is, what does the word unwelcome mean to you? And I say this because when I do premarital counseling, one of the things I'm very keen on pointing out to people is, especially couples, is often you will use the same words and mean two very different things. A great example is, I hold up this. Who can tell me what color this is?
Blue. Blue.
Blue. Great. Who can tell me what color this is?
Purple.
Dark blue.
Well,
Dark
it's blue. It's the lighting stinks, but it's blue. We use the same word for two colors. Yes, they're similar. Yes, they're in the same color wheel, but they're very, very different. So what often happens is when we use these same words, they carry with it different meanings. And so I think it's important from the outset to start the conversation with going, what does the word welcome mean to you? And so I'm not calling on people, so to speak, like, okay, your turn. But if you have a thought, raise your hand or just speak out. What does welcome mean to you?
They're glad to have you there.
Okay.
Friendliness within, to new people who come to church.
Mhm.
Besides, we should be friendly to one another.
I was gonna say this, and while we are looking at church, it doesn't have to be limited to church. When you think welcome, what does that mean in other places too? Those both can play in.
Making someone feel comfortable in their surrounding.
Bring them into the activities and the warmth of the congregation.
Okay.
So I would say that being accepted no matter what.
Okay.
I
To be
like
able to
that.
participate.
Your presence and your participation is unconditional.
Okay. One of the things that I think of with welcoming as well too is questions. If somebody is new or you've not met them, you ask questions. Hi, what's your name? First and foremost, you get to know their name and where you're from, and that gets together with the time. But for me, to welcome someone does carry with it a bit of asking questions, and I think that's what is used as well too to help form, making them comfortable.
I would say reaching out to make a person feel at home.
I think a lot of random acts of kindness would make people feel welcome.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at the flip side for a minute too, because sometimes if we look at um, the opposite, it helps highlight the thing we're looking for. What does the idea of being unwelcome? How do you know when something is unwelcome, when someone is unwelcome? What do you feel? What happens there?
You're ignored.
Okay.
You don't feel like you're a part of anything. You're on the outside looking in.
Okay.
You don't feel any acceptance by the group.
Okay. Kyle, I see you unmuted yourself.
I would say you're ostracized. Kept out of.
Ostracized and isolated, I would put those together. Would that be in the same vein, you think? Okay. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I like to make sure I'm understanding too. Think of places you've been unwelcomed. What was that like?
It wasn't very pleasant.
Mm-hmm. I know for me, in places I've been unwelcomed, um, as I've joked before, I'm barely a pacifist, because in places where I've been unwelcomed, where I felt like I should have been welcomed, I maybe get a little belligerent. I maybe get a little pot stirrery, for lack of a better term. If if they are going to be rude to me, watch what I'm going to do to you. It's kind of one of those eye for an eye realities. Not my finer moments. I admit they are fewer and far between, but I can't say they've never happened. So for me, there is a bit of aggression that comes along with that as well too.
Well, I have a good example, and it is that when I was working for National Audubon, we had an all Audubon staff meeting from across the United States, and it was in the Poconos. And there's within the Audubon Society, there are educators and there are administrators, and then there are wildlife management people who manage the land. And so there was this one big room, and there was lots of round tables, and these different tables were designated, education, management, wildlife, conservation, whatever. So three of us who were from Allwood decided to go to the table on wildlife management, and we sat down, and these guys kind of looked at us like, "You're not managers, or you're not sanctuary managers." It was like, you don't fit the classification. And we just kind of said, well, we're interested in what you guys do. So, but that was sort of didn't really feel very welcome.
I think it's important to reflect on some of the things, some of the words we just said. And I wrote these down as we were talking about them. Because within our community, we answered anonymously, and anonymously suggests that you have more honesty with your answers. That if somebody behaves in such a way that we disagree with, that they will be ignored, they will be on the outside looking in, they will be unaccepted, ostracized, isolated, they will be treated unpleasantly, there may be aggression present, and we're going to look at them weird. These realities are things we have to be honest with if we're ever going to do anything to address them. Whenever we seek to be a people of welcome, and I think that's really why I lean in towards the hospitality side of it, that it's not a clean thing, it's not a sanitized thing, it's a messy thing. It means you express gladness that somebody is there. Think about that a second. To show hospitality means you're glad somebody's there, even if it's somebody who annoys you, even if it's somebody who you've had frequent disagreements with. You're glad to see them, that you're friendly towards them, that you're comfortable around them, and you work to make them comfortable as well too, that you work to bring them into the community, that you work to make sure that they are accepted, that you work to make sure that their presence and their participation is unconditional. And that was a great word, I think, that was used, unconditional. Because so often in churches, there have been conditions. It has been, you can do this if, you can be here, but you need to ask so-and-so permission to do that. Sometimes hospitality means you just do it. You just do it. Hospitality, to make somebody feel welcome, means you ask them questions, you get to know them, that you reach out to make them feel at home, that you do random acts of kindness. And here's the thing. If we're going to be a people of welcome, we have to admit two things. First off, we are not always as welcoming as we want to be. We have not always been welcoming to one another. We have not always been welcoming to people who are different than us. I firmly believe that if we are to be the people of welcome, the people of hospitality that I believe God is calling us to be, we're going to have to adapt how we interact with each other as well too. We're going to have to change showing random acts of kindness to one another. We're going to have to change about being grace filled and patient with one another. And is it easy to say? Heck yeah, it's easy to say. Is it easy to do? Not a chance. It is hard. It is hard to choose grace and patience, forgiveness and welcome when you don't want to. And we can justify it. We can rationalize how we act any which way. But I look again at Jesus, because I read to you from a lot of epistles and letters and things like that. But when I look at Jesus, what Jesus did more often than not is he made people feel welcome. He both accepted and displayed hospitality. When people who were different than him came to him, he welcomed them. The disciples said, "Don't do it." And he goes, "No, we're going to do this. We're going to do this." To be a people of welcome is not easy. It takes concerted effort. And it reminds me a lot of what it takes to maintain sober living. If you ask anybody who's in recovery and who's in sober living, they can usually give you the amount of days they've been sober. Why? Because each day it was a battle. What if we took account each day? I've been welcoming 1 day. I've been hospitable 2 days. Somebody came to me and I wasn't very hospitable with them. Okay. One of the things that one of the terms that it exists within the recovery world as well too is that relapse is part of recovery. It recognizes that you're going to fail, you're going to screw up, you're not going to get it right all the time, and when you do, accept that that happened and start again. These ways of thinking, this mindset, is one that forms then how we do business. It forms how we do community. It forms how we do outreach. But if we don't have welcome, if we don't have hospitality at the outset of what we're doing, then I firmly believe we are missing what God calls us to do. And so my hope is, as we continue through each and every day, not just through the survey, but for each moment going forward, that we do the hard work necessary to be a place of welcome. Because I will say with absolute certainty, you've heard me say before, I'll say I believe very few times, I believe Salem is to be a place of welcome. And I believe that in so doing, it will change everything about how we understand our identity. Will it be easy? Absolutely not. Is it what we're called to do? I actually firmly believe it is. Now, I say that recognizing God's infinite sense of humor does what God's infinite sense of humor does, and things might change. But I got to tell you, I feel very strongly about this call for our community. And that's going to be a guiding force for a lot of the stuff that's going to come from my work, is how are we being welcoming? How are we being hospitable? How are we entertaining angels, for lack of a better term? Here endeth my report. Tom, you're muted. And now you're frozen. Oh. Is he frozen for anybody else, or is it just me?
No, I
Okay.
can't see.
Oh, there he
Am I-
goes.
I
There
just
it
kind of,
goes.
sometimes I get that stoic kind of look to me. So,
Where it looks like
No,
you have
I-
a slight stroke.
I said, thank you, Lee, for your words. And I said, let's go on with the agenda. Is there any old business that we need to consider? Anybody have any old business? No? If there's no old business, then new business. And this is where Stephanie takes over her new role as the board chair.
All right,
Are you-
Stephanie, you're up.
I'm gonna take over this agenda, but I'm just gonna let you know that I've been wrestling somebody in the background, just so fair warning.
Is it Joey? Joey, come on.
It's not Joey.
What happened to my one eye?
Okay. So for the board reorganization, we need to do the committee chairs first. Is that correct?
You need a vice chair.
We need a vice chair first.
Mhm.
And do we need to do that by, so typically, I've never done this by Zoom. They need to, how would you like to do that? To call one?
So the way we did it before, we've done it a couple of ways. Somebody has been nominated, but we've also asked if somebody felt called to serve in that role. And I think it's important to explore that because while we are brethren and we do very well about calling out the gifts in others, we often neglect to call out the gifts in ourselves. And there may be some who feel really called to be vice chair. And if they are, I want to give them that opportunity to take ownership of it.
Okay. Is there anybody who, I can almost guess that what I answer I'm gonna get, but is there anybody who feels called to be vice chair this year?
So, Lee,
Go ahead.
would it be appropriate for me to say I'd like to be vice chair?
I believe that the bylaws state that you then take a year off, but I'm not 1,000,000% sure of that. I would have to rely upon because I don't have the bylaws in front of me, but the way I understand it is your position within it as a leader, you would need to be a year off and then you can come back on as vice. But that's how I remember it when we redid it right when we got here.
Except he's only been on 1 year. He would have to re-up to go on again.
Correct.
To the board, to
Right.
to be vice chair.
And I understand that. I was just willing to say, since I've been chair this whole year, if Stephanie is not able to be at a meeting, I would be willing to lead the meeting, but I understand the bylaws. So that's
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think, well, the intention of that is to make sure we don't have like power monopoly, so to speak. Not that I see either one of you as being power hungry oligarchs who are seeking to take over and run the world, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll be vice chair and Stephanie will be chair, and then the next year she'll be
Just
vice
flip it,
chair.
yeah.
And then I'll be the chair.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. When a couple of years ago, when we did the history of the church, do you realize that I'm one of the people who has been chair more times than anybody else in the history of Salem? You recognize that? Do you know how kind of sad that is? So hearing no one volunteering, is there anyone that you would like to nominate to be vice chair?
Sorry, something stay there.
Sue Wampler, you're muted. I love that we have that sentence. We're all just used to so-and-so's muted.
Maybe that means I'm not supposed to speak. I was going to nominate Jane Cleary, but since she's not here, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that or not.
You can nominate her, and if there's no further nominations, what would occur would be we would ask her if she would be willing to do that. She'd have to be contacted.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Kyle.
That is really mean for his first year ever.
That's what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say I would both love to do that, but I think we have to hold off for a second.
Okay, I just wanted to see his reaction.
My hair.
That was a good reaction, Kyle.
My hair, Mom. My hair.
Sorry, Kyle, it froze up there in the middle. Could you say that again?
I just said I'm I'm starting a new job, and so this year will be an interesting year for me. So it's more, there's some unknowns. So I don't want to promise the world and then provide you something that is not of quality. So
Oh, no, they're
maybe
used to that. They keep me
I'll be
employed.
part
It's
of
all good.
maybe next year.
Well,
Thank you,
Stephanie,
though.
they have nominated someone that hasn't been at the meeting. That all we have to do is call her and ask her if she'll accept it. I don't know if we can get a hold of her tonight or not,
I can
but
send her a
we
message.
have done that. And
Don't-
the other thing, it's not fair for for the first time on the board to have somebody been nominated for vice chair. It's just very, very difficult. Tom
don't call,
Walker, is there any other precedent that you can think of that would negate my comment?
well, what I was gonna say is don't call her and put her on the spot like that. That's happened to me before.
Mm-hmm.
And I went ahead and accepted, but I didn't care for it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, what I was gonna
leave her
do.
the opportunity to think about it. And I think you really ought to start, you ought to look at the whole congregation. There's a fair amount of people in this congregation that have never served on any commission. They may help in other ways that I don't know. But, I mean, people need to step up. I commend, Kyle, I commend you. You haven't been around very long. And you're jumping in. You got a lot going on. So kudos to you for that. But there are many others that and I'm not going to name names, but I'd like to see some other people involved. I mean, it seems like it's always the same people, and a lot of those people I'm looking at on the screen right now do a ton. I mean, and this isn't about, we got a congregation, let's say we're 100 or less than 100 of regular attendees, and you have about 20% of those people do 80% of the work. And, I don't know what the answer is, but it needs to be, that's why I re-upped for my position for next year, because, I know how hard it is to get people to accept. And a lot of people don't like to, of course, I haven't had to stand up in front of any crowds this year because of COVID, but a lot of people don't like to do that. And, but I don't know what the answer is, but there needs to be input from others that haven't been on the board. And I'm not saying they need to jump into the vice chair, because I think you need to get a little taste of being on the board before you do that anyway. And get used to the process. That's my 2 cents.
Hey guys, can I jump in here?
Yeah.
This is the part where this very part that I'm listening to and been listening here now for about 10 minutes is the part that we need to do something about. We need to rewrite these rules or something that we're dealing with at this church. We have a very small people of participation. We have very small people that want leadership roles. Tom Hissong was willing to be the vice chair, and for some little rule, we're going to go through all these people that don't want to do it. And this is where we need to start thinking about what we're doing at this church. Why do we follow these strict little rules when we don't need them at this church? All for this, I mean, we had somebody willing to do it. Now we're going to go through all this and try to find somebody to do it. That doesn't make sense to me at all. So we need to do something about rewriting these rules that we're trying to follow at this church. That's my
Phil?
2 cents.
Thank you, Randy.
Phil, are you still with us, Phil?
Yes.
Is there anything that says if, Tom's only served 1 term on the board? If he
But
re-ups for
hang
next
on.
year,
Wait a minute. The trick is going to be Phil's role as an outsider is regarding the survey. I think the
Okay.
question you're about to structure is in regards to our bylaws that we wrote and elected and passed. So it's not a question of whether Phil's oversight is going to help with that. These standards are the ones that we have set. Now, I know that we rewrote them just a couple years ago. There's nothing that says we can't rewrite them again.
That would be
Right.
my point. We need to take a realistic look at these laws or rules that we're putting on this church and limiting with, and we don't need them.
I would throw it out there. I would be more than happy to look at bylaws. That's kind of what I do. So I'm take a look at those kind of things. If we have ideas, I can try to help guide some of that discussion. I mean, I guess the way that I look at this, and I mean, maybe I'm just new to the board, so take it for what it's worth. But I mean, my skill set is a certain. I feel like I'm the guy that drives people around, you know, in that movie. You know, I have a certain skill set. So, you know, I mean, I guess I have certain skills, and I'm more than happy to share those skills the best that I'm able. I do not have a problem speaking in front of people. It's what I do as well. So if there's ways that I can help in that, I'm more than happy to do that. I guess in my heart, I feel like I'd love to be that position. I don't feel like I'm capable now because I don't even know. And Tom seems like he's doing a great job. So it seems to me like our rules, maybe we should look at trying to give a little maybe flexibility so we can have people who want to be involved, and yet allow people like me or people who maybe are a little scared to get involved because, you know, as a new person in the congregation, I mean, I can say to you, I mean, you guys have done this for a long time and you've been together as a group for a long time. So, you know, talking about what Lee was saying earlier, you know, feeling welcome, you know, I certainly feel welcome and my family feels welcome. But a lot of that is, you know, I have not personally been a part, but my family, you know, my wife, Doris, my kids, you know, George, you know, they're part of the congregation for a long time. So I had kind of an in to feel welcome, but, you know, it's how do we kind of make everyone want to feel that they can serve and be good at it and appreciate it. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. I just throw that out. I mean, I guess in my mind, who is the chair, the vice chair is important only for a certain select group of people. As long as the work gets completed, I don't even know what the work is. That's why I'm scared to say I don't even volunteer to do it. So I'm pleased with the people that are willing to volunteer. I know that doesn't change the rules, but I would be happy to help, you know, change rules if there's ways that we can do that. So anyways.
So I can speak to, oh, Sue, jump in, Sue.
I was just going to share that the year that I was appointed vice chair and then I was chair the following year, my comment was that it was time for me to go off the board, and the board graciously put me on for another 3 years. And so, it did not follow the law at the time.
But it made sense.
So I think we can do whatever we want to do as a board. They made exceptions that year, and so.
So the context I'll give to this is if you decide to accept Tom's volunteering, that is fine. I don't have an issue with it. The only concern I have is this: the bylaws were put in place for a particular reason. I'm not saying we be rigidly adherent to them, but it does mean that we be blatantly transparent about why we are doing what we're doing. The bylaws were put in place because something happened at some point that made those rules necessary. I can tell you one of the first things, the first year I was here, all I did was just listen to stories. And it sounded like for a chunk of time in the history of Salem Church of the Brethren, there was a small minority of power, that they held the power and they directed and told people what to do. The bylaws were written in such a way to prevent that from occurring again. Now, does that mean we completely throw the bylaws out because of this moment? I'm not saying we do or don't. What I'm saying is if the board decides to accept Tom's volunteering, then we make sure that we are very transparent about why we're doing it. And so that we're also not setting a precedent to ignore somebody's recognition that they need time off. I think of Sue when you said, that you knew you needed the time off and the board essentially ignored that. They had their reasons why at the moment. I respect that, but I don't want to set a dangerous precedent here. When, yes, do we need to rewrite the bylaws? Sure do. Every few years we go back and we review them. And yeah, if we need to adapt them, then let's adapt them. But if we choose to accept Tom's volunteering, that's fine. Just make sure we are blatantly transparent about it.
Question.
Mhm.
Tom, are you willing to come back on the board next year? Your term will be up. You could come back on the board. You've only served 3 years. Your term's
is
up
the,
in 2021. Would you come back on the board on 2022?
well, I would be willing to come back on the board, but this doesn't necessitate that I come back on as the chair, okay? What I'm saying is I would be willing to be vice chair from the standpoint that I will fill that position, and to whatever extent Stephanie needs my help in anything, whatever, or if she's not able to attend a meeting, she can contact me and say, Tom, could you lead the meeting? I'm not interested in, being the chair year after year after year, or being vice chair. And if it's a challenge to get this accomplished, just think of the challenge we're going to have to get somebody to be the chair of all the commissions. We're just doing vice chair right now. We haven't even begun to talk about who's going to be, in charge of the various commissions. So whatever you would like to do, it's fine with me. I'm just willing to say, and who knows? Stephanie may have to say, well, I just can't continue with being the chair because I got all this stuff that has come up. And so, I guess I would then be the chair, which I would be willing to do because I think it's a great job because everybody that is on the board kind of helps things flow and go along. My only complaint is I don't get to vote.
Well, the one thing that I think you should consider, I do agree with Randy a lot more than he knows, but I kind of I'll put it simple: bylaws, schmylaws. I really don't care. We got a job to do. Let's do what we need to do. And if you accept Tom's offer, and then you worry later about what you do about the chair. I mean, we really don't. I mean, I just don't see what the problem is, and I know that bylaws are written in some cases for reasons that Lee pointed out, but I mean, when we had 370 people in the congregation, that was one thing, but we don't anymore. And so, there's a small faction, a small group of us. And there's another thing about laws and such here. I'm the moderator. I attend every meeting and I don't have voting rights. So, and that's okay to a point, but there are times when you need that extra vote because you don't have enough people at meetings to even have a quorum. So, that's for another day. But the question at hand is to accept Tom's offer, and I think you ought to strongly consider that without making a capital case out of it, with all due respect.
I second that motion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tom and Mandy both, because I believe this will not be an issue going forward. Because Tom, if he's so led, he can go on another 3 years. he can be elected by the nominating committee to come back on the board after his 2021 term expires. Unless I'm thinking wrong.
But I just want to make sure, Thomas, what you're offering is only to be vice chair this year, not to, in the typical role, be vice chair and then become the chair the following year. Is that correct?
That is correct, right?
Okay,
Because
so everybody understands that, is
this
that's what he's
position
offering.
needs to be filled, and, you know, you were vice chair this past year, and so you never had to step into the role of being a chair for a meeting, because I was at all the meetings. I'm just saying I'm willing to do this, to be like a backup person for you, Stephanie, if something comes up that you're not able to attend a meeting.
But that
So we
could
would-
be a dangerous precedent, because then you're going to have a vice chair and a chair nominated the following year.
Yeah, we're just gonna, and the person who's gonna be, and is gonna be stepping right into the chairperson role next year,
Right.
as long as somebody's comfortable doing that.
The only other suggestion I can give is perhaps table the vice chair nomination until we can speak to Jane Cleary and see if she would be interested. And then go ahead and fill that position at that point with Tom as a
So-
backup plan.
I was gonna say, are you suggesting that Jane be approached?
Right,
Um,
right.
uh,
Ask.
so that we could continue in the model that we have been, where vice chair then becomes chair?
Right.
Okay. I'm just making sure I understand.
Well, I think if she's asked and she says no, then we've got a solution with Tom.
Then this goes to start get the cheap meal.
And then I believe what we need to do is identify the chairs. Do we need to set the commissions first or identify the chairs then?
You set the people are into the commissions, and then the commissions work to pick their chair, so to speak. Although that model, I think, is something that if we're going to take serious time to review our bylaws as well too, I want to review that, because I think that the model of calling chairs is one that served us well when we were a much larger group, but I think is one that may need to be retired for a different model, which is part of the work that Phil is here to help us with as well too, as this conversation will progress through the year.
But we do need to identify then who is going to sit on the executive board from the commissions, if that's the case.
So you have to elect chairs of the commissions.
Yeah. In the
Okay.
past, that's what we've done first. We've elected the chairs and then
Right.
that's right.
people volunteer for the different commissions.
So, okay. That's what we've done in the past, right? Elect the chairs first and then set the commissions. Well, we've done it both ways in the past. So I guess if we could do that, hear from you all what you would like to do. Would you like to elect the chairs first, or would you like to set the commissions first? Someone tell me.
I think that we should make nominations for the chairs first,
Okay,
and then
So-
ask people who wants to be on that commission, knowing that that person's going to be the chair, leading that commission.
okay. So for stewards, can I have a volunteer or a nomination for the chair? Don't all speak at once.
I would stay as chair this year. This is my last year, but I would stay as chair to continue the work that we started.
Okay, thank
If
you,
there's no
Diane.
objections.
Okay,
And I
thank you,
think that's,
Diane.
I think that's great.
Okay,
I think that's great, Diana. Thanks.
thank you. And for witness?
I can take witness. I've done it in the past.
Okay, thank you, Sue. And how about for nurture? Jennifer, are you trying to talk? You might be muted.
I
Or
don't know.
not.
Can you hear me?
Okay,
Yeah, we saw your screen light up like you might have been trying to say something. We wanted to make sure that we didn't miss
Okay.
something you were saying.
No.
okay.
Come on, Jennifer, you've been on with.
That
I
was a
have-
great lead in there. You know, oh, Jennifer,
let
are
me-
you
Let
saying
me
something?
back up.
You
Yeah,
turned
let me
green.
back
I didn't know.
Let me back up a little bit. I've been on chairs before, but it wasn't a good experience for me, so I'd rather not.
Okay, that's
That's
totally
a fair
fine.
statement. Thank you for being honest with us about that.
I
Who
mean,
is-
I wouldn't mind being on that commission. But I don't want to be the chair.
Hmm.
Hold the button.
Who is,
At this point, the question is for nurture, who would be the chair? Jennifer Smoot said she would sit on that commission.
who's the
Um,
sitting chair?
Dawn.
Dawn Strang.
Is Dawn here?
No,
No.
Oh,
Then I'd say continue with Dawn.
No, I
Is
don't think she
Dawn-
wants to.
I don't think. No, from my
No.
last understanding of conversation with her was she'd be willing to serve, but not as the chair.
Right.
Who else is, I don't have the paper that says who else is
So
coming on.
the other people who can, you know, Doris Stebbins is eligible. Kyle is eligible and Jennifer is eligible, although Jennifer is asked to not serve in the role. And no, nothing against Kyle, but as far as I understand,
yeah.
I think Doris as nurture chair, if she was comfortable with that idea, would be a good position. I can't make that nomination, but I will tell you that that's where I feel.
And I feel with my age in that I really don't want to be chair.
Jane Cleary may do that because she's been on nurture before too, but there again, she has to be approached.
Which means, so then if she then takes the role of vice chair, she would then not be able to take that role. So that brings us back to the original question of, do we want to accept Tom's suggestion as vice chair and then ask Jane to serve as chair of the nurture commission?
I like your idea, Pastor Lee.
I mean,
Can
I'm
we-
just clarifying what I'm hearing here. I'm not telling us any
Uh,
which way. I'm
I
just
know.
trying to sum up what I'm
Right,
hearing.
but I like that idea. Can we do that, or we have to have a motion to do that?
I think there needs to be a motion for that.
Can I ask a order question just so
Yeah.
I can understand? So everything that my understanding was is that I'm coming on the board in 2021, so I can't vote on anything. I'm actually on the. So where
At this
does-
point, yes, you can. The grace period of you being on board, this is your first meeting as a representative of board. The members who would have been stepping off would have been, had we been meeting face to face, your presence would have been still in the room at this time. Those who were done would have been asked to leave. They're no longer part of the voting body. We start this time now, we reorganize now so we can hit the ground running in 2021. So yeah, you are equally as equipped to make any kind of nomination or vote one way or another.
Got it. Just checking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the role of administrator is one as pastor I've really had to grow into. It's not a skill set I know naturally have. So summing up what everything's going on is amazing.
Well, I would like to make a motion to allow Tom to be the vice chair and then approach Jane Cleary for
Nurture
chair
chair.
for, for nurture.
Okay.
I feel if Tom is willing to do it, then we need to do something about the bylaws.
Did you catch that, Stephanie? I know you're balancing about 9 things there. I just want to make sure that you have the support there too.
I'm not hearing her.
Is she unmuted
Is there,
herself?
is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a lot of people seconding that one.
Did you get one of those, Sam?
Sam, pick one. You get to pick. It's your choice.
For the sake of the
Right.
minutes, am I clarifying that Tom Hissong be able to fill the position of vice chair without the intent of moving to board chair at the end of 2021?
Yes,
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now he may be called to it but we'll cross that bridge later at that point.
Okay.
But that's
But at
not,
this
we're
point, I'm
breaking that
saying
model.
that Jennifer Smoot motion that Tom Hissong be able to fill the position of vice chair without the intent of moving to board chair at the end of 2021. Is that okay?
and that, was there another part to that?
Do I have to put in there that Jane Cleary is going to be asked to be nurture chair? Or
Yeah.
just, okay,
I think that's part of the motion.
okay. Thanks.
Any of your second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
So then I have,
Go,
so then I
Kyle.
have the steward chair for Diana, witness is Sue, and
Nurture would be Jane.
Jane is nurture. And then I have Jennifer and Dawn under nurture. And then Kyle, where would you like to be assigned?
It's a good question. I mean, I guess I will say I'm not familiar with much, so wherever I can be helpful, I guess. I don't want to promise anything, and I think being a chair makes it seem like I'm going to be able to do maybe more, and I don't know what I'll be able to do. So I'm certainly willing to help. I just don't care.
You don't have to be chair just to be on a commission.
Either, look, name the 3 commissions so he knows what he can
So it
go
would
on.
be
So-
stewards, witness, or nurture.
Stewards
Doris-
take care of the physical property, basically. Witness takes care of reaching out to people, and nurture takes care of people within the community. That's the quick and dirty way to explain it.
Well, I will try to help wherever I can. You tell me. I'm happy to help where I can.
The eye's not open.
Okay, you can be pastor for a month. I'm taking a break.
Why
Good
don't we
living.
see where we're
Because, like,
short and then maybe
I
put
have
Kyle
chocolate.
somewhere? Why don't we see if we need him on any commission in particular, if he's willing.
Well, they do see who wants to go on.
No.
Sorry, Doris, you broke up there. Could you say that again?
We need to see who else wants, of the new people coming on. We haven't placed all of those, get them on a commission and see what
Yeah,
we may short of.
No.
Well,
Jennifer has stated that she wanted to be on nurture. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Right.
yes. But there are people that aren't here, right? That we don't know what commission they want to be on. Is that correct?
Well,
I'd
Doris
like-
hasn't been asked yet. She's
I'd
there.
like to go on Stewart's.
I knew where she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
She does a good job on stewards too.
Yes, you do, Doris.
Can I make a mess?
And Addison Lutz, he's been on stewards before. I don't know. I'm sure that's where he'll want to go because I
No,
don't
look
see
at
him
my
doing
finger.
witness or nurture. But that's just my 2 cents. It doesn't mean that. Who else else is
Is
not
Gary
here
still,
that is coming
Gary-
on?
is Gary still on this year?
Gary's on till the end of 2021. That is correct.
No, I'd put him back on Stewart's.
So you're pretty lean on witness then.
Yeah, we
I
haven't
don't have
gone in.
anybody.
Well, witness, I mean, the thoughts that come to mind for this, Wanda Shade is pretty good with stuff. If she just has, if she's told what to do, she can step into it pretty well. I would think Wanda Shade would be pretty good for witness. That's just my 2 cents. You can tell me I'm wrong.
Um,
I'll take her.
yeah.
Would you say no?
Yeah, and
So-
that also leaves Kyle and Dawn Strain are 2 that need to be assigned, so to speak.
I thought they said Dawn for nurture.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I
Oh.
thought too.
What was Wanda on before?
I think nurture.
I think she was on nurture last time.
Okay.
And so then and then that puts Kyle over on witness.
How about Addison? What?
Stewards, I think, is what we had said.
I know Gary's been on witness before, but I don't know if he was comfortable there. Who else are we missing that was coming on?
That's what well, Jane would be already there. Kyle, if Kyle would be on witness, he's accounted for. Addison's accounted for. Jennifer's accounted for. Doris is accounted for, and Sue is accounted for. Diana Haynes,
Okay.
you're accounted for. Wanda Shade's accounted for. The Strange are accounted for. And then Tom, as vice chair, is no longer able to be on a commission, as far as I understand it.
So I
Well,
have
they
a
usually-
question. I had a question. And this can come with discussions later on about the board, but what about, we have a person who is like in charge of a commission, okay? And then put it out to the church, we need several people to serve on the stewards commission. We need several people to serve on the nurture commission. And these people would not have to go to the board meetings, and they're also not a voting member. They're only on the board they're helpers on those different commissions. So a lot of people may not want to commit time to go to board meetings and things like that, but they may be willing to say, well, yes, I would like to be on stewards commission, and yes, I will meet when they meet with them and whatever.
So there is a particular way of doing board work that is that model. And that's one of the ones that I'm hoping that we can transition to over not maybe this year, but next year. But I wanted to, whenever we did the survey was the first step in changing how we do church governance. And that's one of the ways that would change, is that it would reduce the amount of what is called executive administration, which would be the committees. And there'd be a few people. Now, those people, they are tasked then with, okay, here is, we're doing, instead of chicken barbecue falling under a group, or instead of women's banquet falling under a particular group, a task group is made for that specific task. When that task is completed, that group dissolves. Yes, there's a commission that oversees it. There's a chairman who makes sure that things are getting done, but it minimizes the amount of administrative work that needs to be done, thus making it easier to recruit people. The district does this kind of model. There's other churches around us do this kind of model. And aside from there being some transition to get used to that way of doing things, it does work fairly well. But just because it works well for others may not for us. But that's one of the models that I'm looking at introducing for our community to explore.
But we have been doing that with the chicken barbecue. We've elected chairs and they have gone out and got their own people. So that, that it's not been under the board It is, but it isn't under the board necessarily. And I
Right.
know when I was on nurture, when we needed more help, we did go out and recruit some. They weren't on the board, but they were helpful for a
But that's the
specific
idea.
program.
And that also factors into the hospitality question I talked about earlier, because it allows people to take ownership and to be part of the community in such a way that they don't have to be on board, because board is a pretty big commitment. You know, and it's a little bit easier that we get to have, you know, home bed advantage, home bowl advantage, whatever you want to call it, where you can sit there in lazy pants and not have to worry. But the other concept is, it gives people an opportunity to get to know how the church does what it does. And yes, there was a time where the structure that we're currently operating under was very effective. That time seems to have passed. So as
I
we get
agree.
people set in the standards where we're putting them, it's recognizing that they're also going to probably help us work to transition to a new way of doing church governance.
How many people do we have on each of the boards now? How many under
I-
steward?
There's
count-
4 under stewards.
I count 3 on witness and 3 on nurture.
That's
Okay.
right. That's what I got.
I'm missing all of this.
Well, no. Oh, what do you mean you're missing them? It's not like
I
you were
was-
trying to give your kids a kiss goodnight or something.
I was distracted because Addison was very excited that Santa Claus was in this church meeting.
You mean Addison or Owen?
No, Addison.
Oh, you're Addison. Oh, okay.
Addison came to say goodnight, and she was very excited to see that Santa Claus was there.
Hi.
I
Merry
thought you meant Addison
Christmas.
Lutz there for a minute.
Oh, oh, oh.
Right. Oh, you need a red hat.
So sorry.
It's the only time Baby Yoda loses is when Santa Claus is there.
Sorry, Lee.
And Tom
It just
Hissong,
happens.
Tom Hissong, I just wanted to say your idea is really good. As we went to a smaller board, it was encouraged that the commission just meet and come up with the ideas and then reach out to the congregation for help on that commission. And so that had been the intent. And it goes along with Tom Walker's idea that we need to reach out to more people in our church. We have many people with wonderful gifts, and we need to get everybody involved using their gifts.
That's great, Sue.
Who is the 4th person right now on stewards? I have Diana, Doris, Gary.
Addison Lutz. See, this is where, when you said Addison, that's what, instead of Addie, that's what threw me. I'm going,
Sorry.
I'm conflustered.
And then for witness, I have Sue, Wanda,
And Kyle.
Kyle. And then nurture, Jane, Jennifer, Dawn.
And that's it.
Okay.
And a lot of these commissions last year didn't get to function because we were closed down because of COVID. So hopefully that won't happen this next year, but
I hope not. I sure
Maybe-
miss all of you face to
Yep.
face.
yeah, it gets a little boring staying at home all the time.
I know, and I'm working from home, so I'm totally bored. I miss bell
You might have
choir.
little
and so
kids
on.
running around.
No, I don't. Thank God. Sorry
gonna
for the mothers
say.
too.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
I am not bored.
Oh, I was going to say you probably are not.
I would love to send some entertainment your way.
Stephanie, are you working from home?
Partially. I'm also covering for the therapist in Eaton for day treatment. So I have 8 unregulated kindergarten through 3rd graders in my other job.
Oh my goodness.
You can hire a therapist in Eaton, so I'm really entertained right now.
Oh my goodness. I guess so.
Yeah.
I'd like to encourage Kyle to talk with Sue at some point, because this is a new program for him, and to let him know what Nurture is, Witness is all about.
So now, is there anything in the interest of trying to move this meeting along a little bit?
Get it on my iPad or
Do we have anything else we need to do about reorganization at the moment, Pastor Lee?
I don't think so. I think we've been able to get that. Sam, am I missing a point there?
I think I must have missed this meeting last year. I think I was in New York, so I don't have minutes from that one, but from my minutes from 2018, I have under the minutes people listed under the auditing committee, cemetery board, cemetery caretakers, a trustee, the lighthouse school liaison, the church historian, the St. Vincent's Hotel chair.
So some of that stuff we're not okay. So the school stuff is me at this point.
Do I need to list all of that in these minutes, or should I just delete?
No.
I wouldn't delete, so to speak, but I also wouldn't worry about that at this point because Sue has been the St. Vincent de Paul contact for his,
That's under witness.
yeah, that's under witness. So that falls under a
But I mean,
specific thing.
These minutes, this meeting, for these minutes, I don't need to include those things.
No.
And a lot of it doesn't change, is that correct?
It sometimes becomes a lifetime position, though it's supposed to be a reaffirmed position each year, which is what she was, I think, hinting at there too.
Okay.
And the cemetery board is its own entity. It's really nothing that's underneath the church board.
Okay, I also have the deacons listed. Do I need to worry about that for tonight's minutes?
No. I think your dad's still deacon chair for this next year. Is that right, Randy?
I think he left.
Randy fell asleep, I'm guessing, so he stepped away.
So the next agenda item is setting the dates for 2021. What do we need to do regarding that?
So the idea was get those date, like, yes, we say there's a pattern. Great. Let's get those dates listed so we have them also in the minutes, but also so Carrie can put them together for the directory that's going to be coming out. So that was why we needed to pick the dates and know when they were going to be.
So do you want to look at the calendar together? Is that what you want to do?
I was going to go look at tea leaves and see if that would tell me. That was going to be my guess.
I have somebody I work with that reminds me an awful lot about you.
Aren't you blessed?
Okay.
I hope they're eating peanut butter M&Ms as well too.
You're not sharing, Lee.
No, I'm not. You're absolutely right. I hide them in my office, so I don't even share them with my family.
So the January meeting is executive board and it's January 14th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then February is February 11th and it's board. March is executive board and it's the 11th. April 8th. May 13th. June 10th. July 8th. August 12th. September 9th. October 14th. November 11th. And December 9th.
Okay. I was just double checking to make sure. Easter is on the Thursday, is on the 4th, April 4th. So we'll be okay with that meeting. I just wanted to make sure we weren't running into that for board. So we should be fine.
Are you good, Sam?
July 8th running into conference?
I don't know yet. Theoretically, yes, but theoretically,
Okay.
We might have to change it later.
yeah. Or it may be something
Well,
where,
I just,
I mean, us using
every-
Zoom in this capacity means that if we do have conference, I can be there and then join the board meeting, so to speak. I mean, that doesn't necessarily prevent us from doing that.
Okay.
Lee,
Yes,
everything went away on my computer. I can hear you, but all my main screen come back up. I lost everybody. What do I do to get you back?
it's a really good question. My guess is you accidentally hit the video camera button. So let me try something here real quick.
I did. Okay.
See if that button, if you press it, see if it turns it on for you.
Board.
If it doesn't, you can chat with us still. We just don't have your picture
Yeah,
for some reason.
that's fine. I hear the chat.
Okay.
I just picked it up and I don't know what happened.
Well, you apparently broke it. Way to go, Doris. Come on.
Well, I need a new one anyway.
We can see your box. We just can't, we can see your
We
face.
can hear you talking.
My main screen just came up.
Okay.
They had a glitch.
Okay, for the survey informed discussion, is there anything further regarding that?
No, at this point there isn't. I was able to get that part of the study. I saw the time of what we were doing, and so I worked it into my pastor's report.
Okay. And for the final thing on new business for the YouTube report, what is that?
So this is, I wanted to reflect and relay to you guys what YouTube is doing for us. And what I mean to say, better stated, is what having the sermons and the service on YouTube has done. Since we've started doing the stuff on YouTube, okay, we have had people watch 544.9 hours of content from our page. Okay. Almost over 2,000 people, or over 2,000 views, whatever that may mean. I say whatever that may mean because, so for example, at the Dittmer household, I know when they watch service, there's 5 people there. So, that counts as one view on YouTube, but there's 5 people. But let's say Diana Haynes is watching it, but she puts it down for something and comes back later on. That counts as 2 views. The reason I add that qualifier is to say all we know for sure is that there are people watching. That I can tell with certainty. I can see that people are connecting to it through both our email and also through our Facebook page. It's called a click through. And I can see that it's, a lot of it comes from either Facebook or through email. The highlights, and I say highlights carefully here, the ones that have received the highest views were the service that we did for Easter with the 3 churches around Lent, which would have been Salem, Happy Corner, and Trotwood, when we all went together and put a service together. That one was our highest view. The second highest view would have been Shirley Conklin's Celebration of Life. And what we are seeing is for each Sunday, the average, it makes me laugh, for starters, because it almost immediately mirrors the average of what we were doing in person. I have said before with Salem, I cannot predict our numbers in any way, shape, or form. We can go one Sunday from having 120 people, or we did have 120 people, then next Sunday have 50 people, then the week after another 80, and then the week after that 20 or 40. And it's very much a, kind of bar graph. There was no clear trajectory one way or another. The YouTube trajectory shows the same thing, that there are some Sundays where there's a lot of people watching, and then there's some Sundays where there's not as many people watching. I bring all that to light to say that there are people watching, that the YouTube services are being well received. I know there's people from Michigan, that would be Betsy, who are watching this. There's people in Pennsylvania who are watching this. That's not my mother, by the way. She does watch it, but she's not the only one. I found out that there are some from like North Carolina, Texas. So all this is to say that whenever we started doing the YouTube worship services, I had used the word that this was a bit of a hybrid. I think we're going to have to drop the word hybrid. I think we're going to need to recognize that YouTube is going to be part of our worship experience. Yes, we're still going to do as much in person as we can. But whenever we are able to get back to in-building worship services, the YouTube services aren't going to go away. They're going to be recorded as well too. And I think if you,
That's a good idea, I think.
yeah, and so those will eventually evolve as well. I suspect the first bit of that service will look a lot like Shirley Conklin's Celebration of Life service. If you go to our YouTube page, you can see that, and you can see where it was basically a stationary camera. But the audio was real clear on it, which worked well. But the YouTube thing is going to be part of how we do community. So there will be questions we have to think about later on. First off, children on YouTube, they're very careful with this. Do we need, but that's something that I'm looking at down the road as well too. I just wanted everyone to know that there are people watching these services. And the other thing is, because I'm a nerd, there really hasn't been a huge cost to us for what we've had to do to make this happen. A lot of it was stuff I had, there was one or two purchases that did need to occur, but we were also able to utilize some of the stuff we already had on site in such a way that it's working for us now. There will come a time in a few years where we have to adapt and upgrade some of the technology. But for right now, we're okay. I don't think we need to yet. But I just wanted to bring that to light so that everybody knew about it.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry.
It's okay. If you'll notice, Jennifer, it didn't slow me down. I acknowledged it and kept talking. Why? Because I don't shut up at all.
But I think the way the world is, I think that it's a good idea to keep going with the technology.
Mhm.
And we might get more people that way.
Does anybody have any questions about our services on YouTube? I know I figured out what was causing the echo. I was embarrassed how long it took me to figure out what was causing the echo in the worship services on YouTube. I did figure it out. I'm sorry, I'm dumb. I knew it. As soon as I saw it, I went, I can't believe I've missed that thing, but I caught it.
I just have a question since I just came back on the board. How long are we going to be doing the parking lot services with the weather eventually?
I think what's going to end up happening, if I remember the conversation, and you all might need to help me remember, is we have been using the board meetings and the executive meetings to kind of check in and see, do we want to keep doing this, how we're doing it. I think that it's reasonable to expect that we'll be doing this through at least January, if not February. Considering the fact that Northmont School District today sent out to one call that the kids are going to be asked to do homeschooling the first week back because they're anticipating a spike in COVID numbers. Well, if that's going to be a reality, I think that that's also going to be a reality for us. And so what that also means, though, is let's say that the weather is particularly bad some Sunday and people aren't comfortable driving. We can send out a one call saying, there'll be no parking lot worship, but the worship does continue on YouTube nonetheless. The way I structure the worship service is it's very portable. And that it can move. So if we have to shift from doing in person the way we've been doing it for the past month, it doesn't take away. I have a green screen behind me, so I can put up whatever image I want behind here. And go with that. So I've had like this image up before as well too. Many of you have seen that because I don't think Baby Yoda for Christmas is really going to be well received by the adults. The kids will love it. They'll be giddy over it, but most of the adults would scoff at me. So, but that's the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Notice how you asked a simple question and I rambled for 2 minutes. Can you tell I come from a sales family? Is it evident in any way, shape, or form?
Just
I
your
hate to do it.
hyperactivity.
Yeah. Caffeine's good. That's all I have for the YouTube report. I just wanted to make sure that we are aware of that our community is reaching people in ways we hadn't before.
Any other new business? Or anything else for the agenda?
I would like to bring up, George said he and Tim will keep the parking lot clear, but because of the way, the shape of the blacktop, they will not be responsible if there's any damage.
It sounds reasonable. We just make sure they don't fill any damage in with manure, because my kids will go out and play in it.
We don't have anything to give us manure.
You just have kids running around the Stebbins farmsteads.
And we don't want to fill the holes with kids. We've got enough, but
Yeah.
we don't want to use them for that.
We can always find gravel.
Put them in there. You're fine.
Okay. Pastor Lee, can you lead us in adjournment, please?
I sure would. Will you pray with me? Lord, we thank you for this time together, the ability to gather and to discuss and to recognize that we are in a space of transition and that we are now equipped with the people to do it. Thank you for this group of people here who help us explore and ask questions that might be uncomfortable, but questions that need to be asked. Why? Because they reflect the fact that life is here, that it is vital and it is working, and it seeks to work well. I am thankful for those who have answered the call to serve in this capacity, and I am thankful for those who have chosen not to, because it could have been easy to say, "Oh, sure, I'll do it," and not want to. So for those who did say no, I thank you for their honesty, and I thank you for those who said yes as well. Be with us as we proceed through this Advent season. Be with us as we continue to experience the uniqueness of your birth and your story and what it means for this world. This we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody, thank you all very, very, very much. Have yourselves a great evening.